The Street Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday. File 36. A Death in the Family. It's a Saturday morning as Olivia Street showers and dresses in jeans, then goes to the kitchen to start breakfast in her flat near Tower Bridge, overlooking the River Thames. Her daughter Poppy is back in London from Bristol University for the weekend, and they've planned to go shopping today on Oxford Street, mostly because Poppy needs different clothes, as her life is changing from her school days. Olivia cooks bacon and eggs, and as it is warmer in the mornings now, they eat on the black wrought-iron chairs and square table on the balcony that overlooks the water. They talk about Poppy's university life and watch the boats heading out to sea. It's sunny as they walk to London Bridge Station and catch the Jubilee line, then resurface at Bond Street, with a plan to walk east from here to Tottenham Court Road to get the biggest range of things to see. They visit various shops and Poppy finds a couple of items that she buys. At just before noon, they reach the vast frontage of Gray's famous department store on Oxford Circus, and they decide to get lunch. They push at the 10-foot wide oak revolving doors, and they enter the rarefied world of Gray's. It has 5 floors of luxury goods, and they stand on the escalator as they rise up to the second floor Café Bistro, and are shown to a table near the windows that give a view of the circus outside. It's waitress service, and a dark-haired, green-eyed woman in her early 20s comes up to their table. "How long has Gray's been on this site?" says Olivia to her, as Poppy looks at the menu. "Since 1937, says the waitress. "They give everyone a history lesson when they start working here. It was started by Lionel Gray, and his great-granddaughter runs it now. Even the next generation is getting involved." Olivia has quiche, and Poppy has chili jacket. By the time they finish eating, it's 1:30, and they pay the bill and walk towards the exit. But a man steps out into their path, with a name badge on that says, David Lincoln, Manager. "Everyone have to stay here," he says to Olivia. "This route is blocked off." "Is there another exit?" she says. "Everyone have to stay in this room. Someone's died." "You can't do that, I'm afraid. It's false imprisonment under British common law." He's not sure what to say, and Olivia waits for his mind to roll around in search of an answer. "Can I suggest that you open another door to let people out, unless you suspect your customers of being involved with the death? Mr. Lincoln?" She reads from his name badge. "No, of course not." "Are you familiar with the procedures that you need to follow when someone dies?" "I'm a lawyer. Perhaps I can provide some advice for the shop." She fishes a business card from her Aspinall tote and hands it to him. He frowns now. "Stay here," he says. He opens, then shuts the doors behind him, and they wait while other customers who also want to leave start queuing behind them. After 2 minutes, David Lincoln returns through the doors and makes an announcement. "This route is closed, ladies and gentlemen, but we're opening the fire exit, which is over there on the far corner, and there are stairs down to the ground floor," he says. Olivia smiles at him. "Thank you." "Can you come with me, madam?" he says to her. David leads Olivia and Poppy through the doors to a long corridor that is now empty, but had been full of bustling shoppers. They walk to the lifts, and David presses the top floor button. When the lift doors open again, they step out to see a glass wall across the corridor that has the words Management Suite engraved on it. There's a single wide glass door in the centre, which opens automatically as they approach, and David walks to a set of 6 chairs lined up near to a reception desk that is also made of glass. "Would you wait here?" he says, and he walks off further, then through one of the doors along the corridor. After another minute, David reappears and calls to them. "If you wouldn't mind," he says, and beckons them to walk across the thick cream Axminster. The room is a boardroom with large windows along one side that give a view of Oxford Circus from this 5th floor. A polished mahogany table runs along the centre, and a dozen mahogany chairs are unevenly distributed around it and bunched up towards one end. At the far end is an identical chair to the others, but this one has arms. In the chair is a woman with blonde hair worn up. Her bright green eyes assess the two women as they approach her. Olivia guesses her age to be mid-40s. She is wearing a black Paul Smith business suit, and Olivia knows that because she has one too. "This is Mrs. Gray," says David. The woman stands up now and holds out her hand to Olivia, who shakes it and introduces Poppy. "Thank you, David," says the woman. The manager walks silently across to the door and walks out. There's a soft click as the door closes, and they all sit down around the table. "I read your profile, Miss Street, after you gave David your card. I need your expertise. Let me tell you where we are. I'm Lucy Gray, the granddaughter of Lionel, who started this show back in the 30s. His son, Peter, my father, became MD in the 70s, and I took it on in 2003, when I was 24. My father was frail by then. He hadn't kept up with the times, and Gray's had gathered dust while the retail industry had changed. We were at risk of becoming another successful family-run department store that had slipped away into history. I changed all that." She pauses for a reaction, so Olivia smiles silently and nods. "I changed it by having an iron hand on the tiller. My views, my strategy, my plans. Everything that has happened in Gray's in the last 20-odd years has been because either I thought of it or personally approved it. That's the only way it works, a single vision delivered by the 563 members of staff." "And it's been successful," says Olivia, realizing that this woman warms to praise. "It has a reputation of still being in the zeitgeist." Lucy smiles. "Your manager, Mr. Lincoln, said that someone had died earlier," continues Olivia. "Is that what you need help with?" "Yes, it was my father," says Lucy. "He's along the corridor." "He died here in the shop?" Lucy opens her eyes slightly. "I came in from a meeting and he was on the floor. He was an old man." "You've called the police?" says Olivia. "That's what you're here for," says Lucy. "Sort it all out, can you? Deal with the police and any legal matters about any investigation." "Can I ask?" says Olivia. And Lucy blinks once as she watches her face. "You're not aware of anything unusual surrounding his death? He was perfectly well recently, was he? And this is just natural causes?" Lucy nods, and the silence sits in the room for a moment. "We'll go and look at the body, if that's okay," says Olivia. "Then I'll call the police." "He's in my office, which is 3 doors along." She nods slightly to one side. "You'll find my assistant Jean-Pierre there, who can help you." Olivia and Poppy stand up and walk out of another door from the boardroom. "She's a bit creepy, isn't she, Mum?" says Poppy, as they walk up towards Lucy's office. "Trying to hide something, don't you think?" "People do act differently when faced with a death in the family, but yes, I did get the impression that she didn't quite tell us everything." "I bet she's a rubbish boss, and a control freak, the way she was talking." Poppy screws up her nose. At a door marked Lucy Gray, Olivia turns the handle and walks in. A handsome man in his 20s is behind the desk, and he looks up and smiles, with his blue eyes beneath nearly black hair. "Jean-Pierre? How can I help?" he says. "We are Olivia and Poppy Street. Mrs. Gray has asked us to help with the consequential actions following the death of her father. He's in there, is he?" Olivia indicates a door in the side wall. "Be my guest." They walk through to Lucy's office, which has ash furniture in the 20th century modern style and low, subtle lighting. The windows here look down into the interior of the Greys' shop. On one of two umber-coloured sofas at the far end, a man's body is sat stiffly upright. His head is at an angle and his back is arched. They approach him. "This doesn't look like a natural death, does it, Mum?" "Tell me what you see," says Olivia. And Poppy inspects the corpse. After a minute she says, "Patches of blue skin. He foamed at the mouth. He's stiff. That's rigor mortis, isn't it?" Olivia nods. "His eyes are closed, but he's got a weird look on his face, like he died smiling." All good observations. You may not know enough about toxicology to draw a conclusion. "We haven't done that at uni yet. What do you think is the cause of death?" "That's strychnine poisoning. It was used as a rat poison until 2006 in the UK. That doesn't mean that there aren't old packets of it in people's cupboards, of course." "So this is a deliberate killing," says Poppy. "You can't ingest it by mistake." "That's right. This is murder. Could be suicide, of course, but it's not a great choice as a weapon. It's messy, painful, and slow. You suffocate to death, effectively." "Mrs. Gray won't like that, will she?" says Poppy. "She wants it all to be neatly sorted out and moved out of her world." There's a knock on the door, and Jean-Pierre comes in. "Madam, the family are here. They wanted to come in and see their grandfather." "He's not a pretty sight, Jean-Pierre," she says. "Are these grandchildren? How old are they?" "In their 20s, and their grandmother is with them." "Let me say a few words, will you?" says Olivia, and he steps back out into his office and they follow. On 3 chairs along the wall of this outer office, 3 people are sitting. The first is an old lady in her 80s. Her eyes are active and scan everything about Olivia and Poppy as they appear from the other office. Next to the old lady is a dark-haired, sensitive young man with a wide and open face, and next to him is a brown-haired young woman who is the least confident of the 3. All of them have identical grey eyes. "Mrs. Rebecca Gray," says Jean-Pierre, holding his hand out towards the old lady, "and her grandchildren, Max and Charlotte." "Mrs. Gray, my condolences," says Olivia. "Jean-Pierre said you wanted to see your late husband. Will you allow me to give you some advice? You may want to delay looking at him until some time has passed." "Why?" She is as forthright as her daughter Lucy. "Seeing loved ones after death is never easy. I've been with many families in this situation. Sometimes it's better to let yourself have a gap of time before you face it." "Nonsense," she says, and stands up. "Jean-Pierre, lead the way." Olivia and Poppy step aside, and the old lady goes in. The grandchildren are less keen. "I've never seen a dead body," says Charlotte. "You don't have to go in," says Poppy. "We've seen dead bodies a few times on murder cases, but only with people who are strangers. Granny will be expecting it." "You decide," says Poppy. "Do what you want, not what other people want." "You don't know our family," says Max, and he stands up and turns to Charlotte. He looks at her until she stands too. He holds out his hand, and her fingers wrap around his. Then they go into the other office. Jean-Pierre reappears after a moment and shuts the interconnecting door. "Can we talk in confidence?" says Olivia to him. "Of course, madam. Do you want to step across the way? There's a meeting room. That might be more private." On the other side of the corridor is a functional and hermetically sealed room, with soft chairs and a large screen on one wall for video conferences. And they all sit. Olivia looks at him directly. "Peter Gray was poisoned." She waits for him to react, but he doesn't. "You're not surprised, I can see on your face." He smiles slightly now, and she can see that he wants to talk. I meant what I said just now about in confidence, Jean-Pierre. If you know something, it will come out eventually, and the police will need to interview you all formally. It never looks good if witnesses delay giving essential facts in an investigation. That immediately makes an investigator suspicious because an honest person doesn't hide the truth. Okay, as long as you can guarantee that this remains in confidence, he says. Can we use the information but not attribute it to you? He thinks for a moment, then nods very slightly. The family don't get on, he says. They're all competing with each other. The dead man, Peter Gray, he was the only pleasant one. You saw the style of communications they have. That's just how they do business, and only family members are seen as credible. I'm the closest to it all who's not related to a Gray in some way. How long have you worked here? 5 years? He's been dead anything from 1 to 3 hours. It's difficult to tell with the particular poison that was used, as it causes instant rigor mortis instead of that condition developing over time, as is normal. But we can say that he died sometime this morning, and he hasn't been moved. So tell us about the events up here on this floor today, she says. Anything, any detail, even if it seems irrelevant. I normally don't come into work on Saturdays, but Lucy Gray asked me to come in especially, as her father was going to be visiting, he begins. He rarely came in, as he was 88. Was he healthy? As far as I know, yes. Lucy didn't mention anything. Go on. He arrived at 10:30, something like that, says Jean-Pierre. He had a private meeting with his daughter, and I heard shouting. I don't know the agenda. Did he have any say in the business any more? Says Poppy. No, says Jean-Pierre. He would have liked to, but Lucy made it a condition of her becoming MD that he kept his nose out. What happened after the argument? Says Olivia. She stormed out of her office, leaving him in there, says Jean-Pierre. She had nothing in the diary, so I don't know where she went, and she closed the door on him in there. You didn't go in and see him? Says Poppy, and the man shakes his head. Then the 2 grandkids appeared, looking for their mother. How long after Lucy stormed out did her children appear? Says Olivia. He takes a deep breath and looks up and to the right. 10 minutes? Suddenly the door opens quickly. It's Charlotte, the granddaughter. When she sees that the room isn't empty, she frowns and turns away again. Would you go and have a chat with her, Poppy? Says Olivia. Charlotte has only gone to the far end of the top floor corridor when Poppy comes out and sees her, then walks over to where she's sitting on a giant round cream seat that occupies a circular lobby at the corner of the building. Are you okay? Says Poppy, sitting down. Were you close to your granddad? I kept him protected. From whom? From Mum, says Charlotte. We met her. She's an angry woman, isn't she? Evil, more like. What's she done, then? She and Grandma were always attacking Grandad. He was the only honest one. They were like a pack of feral dogs sometimes, and I used to tell them to stop. It was always going to end like this. Do you think there was anything odd about his death? Says Poppy. Did my mum kill him, you mean? That would be great, wouldn't it? She goes off to prison and I run this place. Is that what you want, to run the shop? Says Poppy. Of course, for a while anyway. No one is allowed to own it. Great-Grandad Lionel made sure of that. It was his baby. There's a trust that actually owns it all, the brand, the building, the stock. Each generation just gets to run the show for a few decades, then the spotlight moves on, and their kids take over and push them off the pedestal. Charlotte flicks her eyes over Poppy's shoulder at someone walking up to them. Poppy turns to see Max Gray. In the meeting room, Jean-Pierre says that he needs to get back to the office to see if Lucy or the widow Rebecca Gray, need anything, and Olivia goes with him. Rebecca is walking out of her daughter's office as they arrive. "Can I get you a cup of tea, madam?" says the assistant. "Maybe you'd like to sit in the boardroom, and I'll bring it in." "Mrs. Gray," says Olivia, "could we talk? Your daughter was keen that I sort out any loose ends, so your insights would be invaluable to minimize any discomfort for the family." "I'll get you both tea," says Jean-Pierre. Olivia and Rebecca walk back to the boardroom, which is empty now, and they sit on 2 blue sofas that are set near the window to be in the light. After they settle, Olivia says, "Tell me about your husband, Mrs. Gray." "We were married for 50 years, Miss Straight. For 40 of those years I considered him to be the most honest and loving man I'd ever met." "And what happened a decade ago to change your view?" "I discovered that he'd been less than honest. It turns out that he was a gambler and had frittered away the family's investments and cash reserves. I had to take on that responsibility late in my life to wrest control of our money back from him." "Can I talk to you about your husband's death?" says Olivia. "Do you feel up to it?" "Of course. Greys are all sturdy and forthright. We don't entertain weakness." "You saw the body, and you all have worked out that his death was not a peaceful event," says Olivia. "He was poisoned." "Peter's a keen gardener, and has plenty of rat poison in one of the outbuildings on our estate. It wouldn't have been difficult once he had decided to take his own life." "Due to the cause of death, the police will classify this as a suspicious case and involve the coroner. I can deal with all of that, as your daughter has asked. But you should be aware that they will be asking questions. I can't stop that happening." Jean-Pierre opens the door and places a tray with a teapot, milk jug, and 2 cups and saucers on it. Then he walks back to his office, just as his phone extension is ringing. It's Stan, the security man on the back door, who tells him that a recorded letter has been delivered to the shop, addressed to the Gray grandchildren, Max and Charlotte. Jean-Pierre drops down in the lift and walks to the back door. Stan has signed for the letter and hands it to him. As he rises in the lift again, Jean-Pierre is smiling. He walks along the top corridor to where Poppy, Max and Charlotte are talking. "A letter," he says, and holds it out. "For you two." His eyes flick between the 2 grandchildren. Max takes it, and Jean-Pierre walks away while the boy reads the outside. Their names are neatly printed in black ink on the envelope. "This is Grandad's writing," he says, and shows Charlotte. Then he pulls his finger along under the flap and removes 1 sheet of cream vellum-headed notepaper of the type used by Gray's department store until Lucy had it all burnt. Max reads, and Charlotte and Poppy watch his face for reactions to the words. But his face remains deadpan until he has finished reading, and then he frowns. "What is it?" says Charlotte. "It's from Grandad." "Yeah, we all got that. What's it say?" Max takes a deep breath. "That we're not his grandkids." Charlotte contorts her face, and she grabs the letter and reads it herself. "My God." "What is it?" says Poppy. "Mum is not our mother. Our mother was a woman called Jocelyn Poole. She was Grandad's mistress. But she died." Charlotte reads the words. "We're his children, not his grandchildren. This letter says that his solicitor is holding his will. That splits everything between us two." She looks at Max. "And we have to decide which one of us runs the shop." "What about Lucy Gray, your mother?" "She's not our mother," says Max. "But she is the eldest child of his wife and him," says Poppy. "So she might have a claim." "That's for the courts to decide," says Max. "If she sues us over the inheritance, we'll fight her." "Does the woman that you've been calling your grandmother get anything?" says Poppy. "They had 2 houses?" says Charlotte. Grandma gets the house in Bournemouth and a pension for her and Lucy, but on condition that neither of them have any involvement in the shop. Does it say when Jocelyn died?" says Poppy. But the others shake their heads. Poppy can see her mother walk out of the boardroom along the corridor, and she excuses herself. Then Olivia and Poppy go into the meeting room. "Case review, Mum," she says. "You first." "The death is suspicious, and I will call the police as soon as we've had this chat. The widow believes that he took his own life due to financial mismanagement, but without me telling her. She talked about rat poison, which is a source for strychnine. I didn't tell her that that was the weapon of choice. The daughter, Lucy, the managing director, as we saw, is distant and uncaring. The wife and the daughter are short-tempered and controlling. But are they the killers? We have no evidence of that yet." "My turn," says Poppy. "The grandkids have received a letter from their grandfather, stating that they are not his grandchildren, but are in fact his children, by his mistress called Jocelyn Poole, and that his widow and Lucy, the MD, get a house and an income, but not the shop to run. That could be a motive for murder, couldn't it, Mum? All of that points to Rebecca or Lucy trying to stop that secret getting out." "That's a tempting rationale, but the widow and the daughter were better off with Peter alive. It depends if they knew the details of his will, or were just trying to hide the parentage. They must have known that Max and Charlotte were Peter's children for all these years." "Can we go and talk to them?" says Poppy. Olivia walks to Jean-Pierre, and he confirms that Lucy Gray is back in her office. Olivia asks if Lucy would come with them to talk to her mother. Olivia leads the way back to the boardroom. When they go inside, Rebecca is still there, and the others sit down around her. "Mrs. Gray and Mrs. Gray," begins Olivia. "I don't know if you're aware that Max and Charlotte have received a letter sent by Peter's solicitor, stating that Max and Charlotte are Peter's children and not his grandchildren. It's my expectation that you already knew this. His mistress died, and I'm guessing that all of you thought the children would be better off if just seen as part of the main family." Olivia looks between the two women, who don't speak or change the look on their faces. "But my concern is not the late Peter Gray's will. It is to point the police to who killed him. I don't believe that he committed suicide, but forensics will clarify that. If there is evidence of rat poison in your home, Mrs. Gray," she looks at the widow, "then they can trace that back to you, to microscopic deposits on your hands or clothes, which you can't remove by washing. It will be easier if you tell the truth now." The widow looks sad. "Of course, we both knew about Peter's mistress and the children. All three of us agreed that it was for the best. Max and Charlotte have had a wonderful childhood." "Let me formalize a question, ladies," says Olivia. "Are either of you aware of any circumstances surrounding the death of Peter Gray that are suspicious?" No. "When the police arrive, they will want to ask you questions about all of this. In the meantime, if you do recall any further details, then let me or the police know immediately." Olivia and Poppy walk out to the corridor. "It's frustrating without a confession, but we only have circumstantial evidence. The police will be able to do more than us." "We can look up death certificates, can't we?" says Poppy. Olivia pulls out her phone and they make the inquiry about the death of Jocelyn Poole. "Here it is, Jocelyn Kate Poole, died on the 12th of October, says Olivia. "There's a reference to a coroner's report, which means there was an investigation, which I can look up on another legal service online." She types and swipes, and looks at her screen. Jocelyn Kate Poole? She talks as she reads. She died of strangulation. Poppy screws up her nose. She had 3 children? Says Olivia. 3? Not 2? Olivia swipes back. Yes, 3. Has it got names there? Max, Charlotte, and... She pauses and looks at Poppy. Jean-Pierre. They walk to the man's office, and he's walking out from Lucy's office, through the interconnecting door. You're Jocelyn Poole's son, Jean-Pierre, says Olivia. Your mother was strangled to death. Do you know anything about that? He looks serious. Peter Gray killed her, but he hid the evidence, and the family covered it all up. Did you get this job to be near the family? Says Poppy. I just wanted to understand how it happened. Poppy suddenly runs around Jean-Pierre's desk and starts pulling open the pedestal drawers. He runs at her, trying to make her stop, but she opens the bottom drawer and there's a plastic bag with white powder in it. Leave her alone, Jean-Pierre, says Olivia. But Poppy grabs the bag and manages to get around him, then stands on the other side of her mother. Stop, says Olivia. Poppy, go to the boardroom and ask Lucy Gray to call security. Poppy runs out. You killed him, didn't you, Jean-Pierre? For killing your mother. And you got a job here to be close to your actual brother and sister, and to take your revenge. You've got no evidence, he says. If that bag is rat poison, then we do have evidence. The security guard called Fred arrives from downstairs, with Poppy, Lucy, and Rebecca. I'll call the police, says Olivia. The Street Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday.